Okay, hi again. It's Christine with CS Lives. I just finished working out, and so you don't get to see me at my best right now, but that's fine. This is probably the real me, and I'm just here to enjoy a cup of coffee. So I work out really early in the mornings, like 3 a.m. essentially. Whether I have to go into work or not. Reason being is that my body just has energy only if I am working out before the sun is up. The minute the sun is up, my energy levels just decrease dramatically, and I just feel sluggish and I don't feel like working out. So I just really love that early morning time to myself. And I find that really early morning time, everybody else is sleeping. It's a great time for me to really get my head together. Um, so I spend time praying, meditating, working out, a lot of me time to process things that are going on, plan for the day ahead, whatever the case may be. And I actually find that my greatest ideas tend to come to me in the morning. So I don't have to be anywhere anytime soon. So I figured, let me talk about what was going through my mind this morning, which was forgiveness. Um, I met up with a friend yesterday and we were chatting for a while and we briefly touched on the topic of forgiveness. And she texted me later and said that it's actually something on her mind. And told her I wish we had pursued that part of the conversation a little bit more. But it was ironic because I have a terrible memory. Everybody who knows me knows this. I just have the absolute worst memory. Um, and so it's really easy for me to forgive because most of the time I don't even remember what people did that hurt me. Obviously, I remember the big things. But like day to day little things that somebody did a few months ago, it's like, I don't even remember. I mean, once somebody reminds me, I will remember it, but on my own, I don't remember it. And so I don't hold grudges. I've always laughed at that. As a Christian, we are taught to forgive. And in the Lord's Prayer, it says, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us." Um, and so it's something that it's really important. If you are a Christian, it's really important. And I think just from a psychological perspective, it's also really important. There's a lot of healing that goes on when you are able to forgive. Um, but so we were laughing about that, the fact that I don't hold grudges because I forget, and I said, that's one of God's greatest blessings to me because when God created me, He knew the life I would have, and a lot of fucked up shit has happened to me. A lot of people have hurt me significantly, and I was like, and God's blessing to me is that I have a bad memory, and that's the only way. I don't sit there and just reminisce on all the ways that people have hurt me because I just don't remember. So it's a blessing. And so she texted me. She texted me later on in the evening. I guess she had just ordered a book off of Amazon, and I'm pulling up the text message, which is why I'm looking down here. She had ordered a book. I don't know anything about this book, so disclaimer here: I am not promoting it. I am just referencing the title because it's just ironic. The title of it is "Forgiving What You Can't Forget." And I thought that was hilarious. How funny is that? That book gets delivered like 2 hours after our conversation, or I say that it's so easy for me to forgive because I've already gotten to the forgotten stage. Um, that being said, of course, let's talk about forgiveness for the things you do remember. If you're lucky like me and there's lots of things you can't remember, well, like I said, you're lucky like me. But of course, there are things that I do remember, things that hurt me deeply, and things that still affect me today. Those are the things that I struggle to forget because I'm still dealing with their consequences. The things that are easy for me to forget are things that hurt me in the past and that's over and it no longer is actively hurting me. And so there's no motivation to remember. But there are ways that some really important people in my life have hurt me. And I struggled for a really long time to forgive because the consequences of their actions are things that I continue to deal with. I really got into forgiveness, I want to say about a year ago. About a year ago, I really got into manifestation. And for those of you who are like, well, aren't you Christian? How do you like reconcile manifestation and Christianity? Honestly, I think manifestation is the new age term for faith, if you want to know the truth. Because in Christianity and in the Bible, we are taught that faith will move mountains. And I have an Egyptian background. We have stories of mountains literally moving through the power of faith. And those mountains are still there. And I think there's like some physical signs that show that a mountain literally moved. I know that sounds crazy, but faith will do crazy things, right? You hear about people getting healed of these incredible diseases that there was scientifically no cure for, but they are cured. So, anyways, I reconcile manifestation and faith because to me they are the same thing. Believing that you are able to do something. Um, so for me, I always make sure to include Jesus, God, whenever I am trying to manifest something because I want to make sure I don't get completely lost in these new age ideas. I think there's things to learn from them, but my faith in God and in Jesus is a big part of who I am. It is a big part of me being able to be happy and peaceful, and so I can't lose sight of God. Um, but anyways, so I got into forgiveness about a year ago, or the topic of forgiveness became a big one for me about a year ago when I got into manifestation. Because energetically, you're supposed to be high vibes if you're trying to manifest positive things into your life. The thought being that you are constantly manifesting things, they're just not always good things, depending on how you are vibing. And so, if you want to manifest positive things into your life, then you need to be a positive person. And a part of that is releasing anger. And so there were a couple of people that I was really struggling to forgive. And I think I was really struggling to forgive because in my mind I was thinking they should have known better. They should not have done this because they should have known better. I've known them for years, and for years and years, they talked on and on and on about the things that are important to do, the things that are important not to do, and then they hurt me in all the ways that they used to talk about being wrong. So like they knew better. I know they knew better. Um, and that was hard for me because I was hurt significantly in ways that to this day affects me. And so when I got into manifestation, um, what really helped me to get the process of forgiveness started, I'm not going to say this was the cure all, but to get the forgiveness started is a journal. And I journal, I'm not going to say 7 days a week, I journal 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. I work out, I journal, I meditate, I do all of the good stuff. The weekend, I take a break from everything. Um, but Monday through Friday, I journal, and I journal two things. The first one is forgiveness. I list everything that is on my mind that's bothering me. I don't dig deep, and maybe there is benefit if I did dig deep, but I don't dig deep. It's what's on my mind that day. I include myself. If there are things that I feel like I did not handle well, or even negative emotions that I am having that I did not want to be having. Like on a rational level, I know there's no reason for me to stress about a particular situation because I know God is in control. And I know even though it may look like it's a mess right now, I know it's going to work out. I've seen it happen over and over and over it again in my life. And so I know this, but that doesn't take away that anxiety as I'm living the messy part of the situation and waiting for it to be worked out. And so I'll put that on there. I'll put that in the forgiveness part of my journal. I will forgive myself because I am worrying or having anxiety or fears. Um, so I list all of the things that are on my mind. There's usually 5 or 6 things that I am feeling like I need to forgive any one particular morning. And and I'm, I read this in a book. So I am referencing what I read in a book a year ago. Keep in mind, I said I have a bad memory. So I might be butchering what I'm referencing. I don't even remember which book I read it in, but there's this old Hawaiian like tradition for forgiveness, where you remember what it is that you want to forgive, you remember how it made you feel, and then you say, I forgive you, I'm sorry, thank you, I love you. It doesn't seem like a great magical solution to anything, but it's not going to hurt. I figured, let me give it a shot. And so I started this about a year ago, and I would read out each, or I would silently read it out. I wouldn't be reading it verbally, but I'm sure you can. I would read out whatever it is that's in my journal that's bothering me, anxiety, worry. So I would now be referencing myself because I'm the one having those feelings. And so I would say, Christine, I forgive you. I'm sorry. Thank you. I love you. Or if it was that person that I was thinking of from my past, I would say that person's name. I'm sorry. Thank you. I forgive you. I'm sorry. Thank you. I love you. And so that's what I started doing about a year ago. And lo and behold, it did start working. I'm not going to say it started working overnight. I don't even know how long it started working, but it did start working. Not to say that I've 100% forgiven everybody for everything they have ever done to me. No, that is not true, but I've made significant progress. So that was one of the first things that I did. And one of the concrete things you can do, because it's easy to talk about, I want to forgive. Okay, well, how do I actually do it? I want to forgive. The logistics of how to do it are a little more complicated. So that's logistically one thing that you can actually do. And it may feel silly, it may feel pointless, but I mean, you got to do something, right? Unless you've got a better idea on how to forgive, you might as well try this silly idea. And I noticed that as I started doing that, I didn't read this anywhere or anything like that. This just began to happen. A step popped up in my mind. I was inspired, I guess, on a way that I can further my progress on forgiving people. And that was putting myself in their shoes. Like this person who should have known better because they've preached, they've talked about all the things that you should not be doing, and then they went and did them to me, right? So this, it's a she. I'm just going to say she because it'll be easier. So she should have known better. I know she should have known better. Well, let me put myself in her shoes. Like, let me actually live out this situation from her perspective. And once I started doing that, um, I started to see the temptation for why she would want to hurt me in the way that she hurt me. She, like a lot of us, on a logical level, I'm sure knew that what she was doing was wrong. And yet, on an emotional level, she was hurting herself. And the only way to minimize her pain was to take the action that she took that ended up hurting me. And once I started being able to put myself in her shoes, understand her motivation, her rationale, I started realizing it really had nothing to do with me. It really wasn't personal. Yes, I'm the one who was hurt. I was the one who was impacted. She was the one who should have known better. Like that's like making it personal, right? I was hurt, she hurt me, she should have known better. But realistically, it was never personal. She hurt me because I happened to be the one there that she had to deal with in this particular situation. It could have been somebody named Roxy. It could have been Stacy. It could have been anybody. It had nothing to do with Christine. But she was hurting, and the person who happened to be in front of her, who could alleviate her pain if she took a certain action, happened to be me. Unfortunately, it happened to be me. And so I happened to get hurt because she was drowning and she was trying to save herself from her own pain. And once I was able to understand that, it was like it was completely eye-opening. I'm not going to say I love her or I like her even at this point in time. I love her as a sister in Christ. Like that is the extent of it. That doesn't mean that I'm going to voluntarily choose to interact with her or allow myself to be vulnerable because I don't trust her. But I am able to understand um, why she did what she did, that it was never intentional to hurt me, and that it was really about her pain. And some of you are thinking, well, that's great. That's great that you were able to handle this particular situation because it was never intentional to hurt you. But there are people who have intentionally hurt us, who it was personal. I've been there too. Give me a second. Let me take a sip of my coffee. The thing you need to understand is emotions are contagious. Happy people, healed people, don't go around hurting anybody. Uh, they want to spread that happiness, not because they have some like great um, altruistic motives in any way, shape, or form. It's just natural. I'm happy. If you're happy, then we can be happy together because humans are social and we want to socialize with people who are like us. And so, if I'm happy, I want to be around happy people, and I'm going to spread my happiness. I am not going to be happy and then go, "Ooh, how can I hurt this person?" Like, no. The only people who hurt people are the ones who are dealing with their own negative emotions, their own stresses, their own fears, their own unhappiness, their anger. So those there are people who have hurt me personally. They wanted to hurt Christine. They were angry at Christine. And I did hurt them, and so they had a reason to be angry. Now, keep in mind, I didn't hurt them intentionally. I don't know if they know this. I didn't hurt them intentionally. I was dealing with my own pain. See how this whole thing is contagious? The emotions are contagious. I was dealing with my own pain. I inadvertently hurt them. They are angry, and now they want to hurt me. Um, I mean, you know what's funny? I'm not talking about the ways I hurt them, right? None of us do. We're always like, he did this, she did that. We never talk about, well, why did they do that, right? Why did they do that? And the why is really where forgiveness is important. Because the first scenario that I talked about, that woman, the why had nothing to do with me. It was not personal. And scenarios where people have hurt me personally, the why, well, let's be honest. I fucked up. I hurt them. So nobody ever wants to focus on that part of the narrative where I hurt them. Maybe I hurt them on a scale of 1 to 10. I felt like it was a level 2. It wasn't too terrible. And then they got really angry and they hurt me at a level 8. And so it's not fair. They hurt me more. I didn't deserve that. Well, that's just bullshit. That's just bullshit. Let's not get into all of these details. The fact of the matter is, those people hurt you because they were hurt. We're still going back to the same thing. They hurt you because they were hurt. And even if they were hurt, not because of anything you did, but because of someone else and they took it out on you and it was still personal, they are hurt. And once you begin to understand that, once you begin to try to put yourself in their shoes, like truly just try. Most people don't want to because they want to hold on to that anger. They want to. Well, you go on and hold on to it, then this isn't anything you need to be listening to. But that anger hurts you. That anger keeps you from being happy. It releasing the anger liberates you. This is about you. Forgiveness is about you because let's be honest, your anger ain't doing shit. Unless you're using your anger to fuel ways in ways you could be vengeful and hurt them. If you're just sitting there and you're festering in your anger, they're living their lives. They might not even know you're angry. They're living their lives, and you're the one having to deal with all of the negative repercussions of holding on to that anger. So the forgiveness is for you. So it behooves you to put yourself in their shoes and try to understand. And you may never. Sorry, it's my dog. He's like, get out of there. You may never fully understand why they did what they did, right? Because we're guessing here, right? We haven't had a conversation with them. If you can have that conversation, great, go ahead and do that. But if we're talking about this, I'm assuming that you and this person that you're angry at, that you haven't forgiven, are not at a place where you are able to have these conversations and reconcile. If you can, that's wonderful, and go ahead and do that. But that's a different topic because that's also a tricky situation to handle. But assuming that you can't have these conversations with the person. We're guessing here. We're doing a lot of guesswork to try to put ourselves in their shoes and understand where they were coming from. But the point of it isn't to guess correctly or to fully understand their psychology at the moment that they hurt you. The point is to try to come up with excuses for you to forgive them. It is not about facts. This is about you and how you perceive the situation. Because the reality is, there is no reality. Our lives are just a perception that we have. Because if I think that the sky is purple, it doesn't matter that everybody around me thinks the sky is blue. In my world, it's fucking purple. And I like it purple, right? That's not actually true. I don't think the sky is purple. But that's what I mean. Our realities are our perception. And so when you are forgiving somebody, you are creating a perception or a reality that works for you. And it doesn't matter if it's accurate, if it's not. And a lot of it might actually be accurate because our intuition tells us a lot of things. If we're going to sit down and be honest with ourselves about why something happened, our intuition will tell us a lot of things and we may not want to hear it. And so we may brush it off and say, well, there's no fact. This is just me guessing about this. But that's fine. Even if you are wrong, even if you are guessing and you guess incorrectly, the point is for you to come to a place where you are able to forgive them, where you're able to go, you know what? It was a fucked up situation that they were in. They were hurting. They were drowning. And the only way that they could come up for air was to hurt me. And literally every situation that I have been in where somebody hurt me, it was because they had to protect themselves. They had to look out for themselves. I mean, can I fault them for that? Can I? I mean, yeah, they should have known better. But we all should have known better at different situations in our lives. Like when you're on your diet, and you eat a piece of cake, you should have known better. Well, that's nothing, Christine. That's just a fucking piece of cake. The point is, should have known better, it doesn't actually exist. Because had they known better, they would have done better. There is no should have known better. Nobody makes a decision and it ends up with horrible consequences going, well, I knew it was going to have horrible consequences and I still did it anyways. No, they're going to be in denial because they were in denial. They did not actually know better. They should have known better, but they didn't because none of us actually know better. That's a topic for a different day because that's also a little complicated. But going back to forgiveness, let me get a sip of my coffee. I'm going to sidetrack for a second. The name of the show is By Hook or By Crook, uh, referencing essentially determination. That's what that's about. And when they asked for an artist name, because I couldn't decide if I wanted the name of the show to be By Hook or By Crook or CS Lives. And there's a reason why, and you're probably like, what the fuck is CS Lives? I'll explain to you what CS Lives. Those are my initials, CS. And I liked it because it kind of sounded like C.S. Lewis. Now you're probably thinking, oh, you must be a huge C.S. Lewis fan. Not really. I've read one book, one C.S. Lewis book. That book left an impression on me. I read it years ago. I don't fully remember the book, but it was actually about forgiveness. Um, and well, it's so that I'll get back to the book in a second. Um, I don't want you to think I just wanted to sound like C.S. Lewis. That's not it. I wanted the point of it to be I live. I am alive despite all of the horrible shit that has happened to me. And I am not getting into the details of it all because um, I actually don't want to hurt some of the people from my past who would be a big part of what I'm talking about. Um, I want them to heal and I want them to do better. They completely demolished my life. But I am not talking about the ways that they completely demolished my life because I don't want them I don't want them to hurt. I don't want them to know the nitty gritty details of how I felt day in, day out. But let me just say this much. For years, I woke up and the first thing that would come to my mind is, tell me this is a nightmare. Is it still fucking real? Imagine, for years, the first thought that comes to mind when you wake up is, shit, this nightmare is still happening. It's still fucking real. Like, you keep just wanting to wake up from it, but it's your life. There's no waking up. I'm getting choked up just talking about it. So let me drink more coffee. That's how much I was hurt. Um, but I don't want to hurt those people because obviously they did not mean to hurt me. Or I don't know where they are right now. I don't know how they feel about their actions at this point in time. But they were in a really bad place themselves to do the things that they did. And so I don't want to put them back in a bad place if they have improved. If they have not improved, which I really hope they have improved, they have not improved, then them knowing the extent of how they hurt me, I don't think is going to help the situation any. I actually think it'll make it worse. I wish them healing and peace and love, because it takes a lot of pain to do the things that they did. Anyways, but that's why I went with the name C.S. Lewis, because after everything I had been through, after my life was demolished, just completely torn apart, my identity, everything, just everything torn apart, I am alive. And I'm not just fucking alive, I'm flourishing and I'm thriving. And so that's why I liked C.S. Lewis. Now, I did say it kind of sounds like C.S. Lewis, which I thought was kind of cool. So the one book that I read, don't remember the name of it, don't remember all of the exact details. So I am sorry if I'm butchering this and you are a huge C.S. Lewis fan, you know exactly the book that I'm referencing. But it's a book on forgiveness. And essentially, the gist of it is, so it is Christian in nature. Um, a person has the opportunity to enter heaven, but declines because it would mean that he is in heaven with this other person he's really angry at, and he wanted nothing to do with this guy. And so he declines to enter heaven because he doesn't want to be near this motherfucker. Okay, saved you having to read the entire book. And to me, that was just like, wow. Like, wrap your head around that. Because that is reality. That is reality. Or my perception of reality, because reality doesn't exist, right? But if I had to enter heaven and be around those people that demolished my life, because assuming they repent, I'm a Christian again, so I'm using Christian references here. Assuming they repent, God's going to forgive them. God doesn't care if I forgive them. Because the minute they repent, God's forgiven them. So my anger doesn't keep them from getting into heaven. Let's also just point that out, because that's important. So the minute they repent, God forgives them, and then they die, and then they enter heaven, and then I die, and I get to heaven, and I was like, hold up, hold up. These motherfuckers are here? Am I gonna go in? Because if I have to stay, if I have to spend eternity with them, am I gonna go in? If I had a choice, am I gonna go in? And um that was mind-boggling because I'd never thought about it from that perspective before. We like For those of you who are Christian, I think sometimes we have the impression that we're going to die and then we're going to become like holy and then we're going to enter heaven. And I don't think it works that way. I don't think like we die and then we change to be worthy of heaven. I think we just enter heaven like as we are. And so I don't think I could enter heaven with all of this anger simply because I don't want to be around these people if they made it in. And it finally just kind of made sense to me why in the Lord's Prayer it says, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Because simply put, if I can't forgive them and they're in heaven, I am making the choice not to enter. Like, I got to spend eternity with them. Then I am not going to enter. Um, So that's kind of a segue. Um, but for those of you who aren't Christian, it's still the same thing about forgiveness, because forgiveness, once again, it doesn't change anything in that person's reality unless you are actively hurting them because you're angry at them. But if you are angry at them and you're not taking any kind of action to hurt them, and I'm not promoting you should not take action to hurt people, but if you're just simply angry at somebody and just like festering in that anger, you're the one hurting yourself. You're the one who is keeping yourself from just liberation, from just being able to just breathe, just have peace and quiet, have joy, have laughter in your life. You owe it to yourself to have those things. And you holding on to that anger, it's keeping you from it. You're festering, you're just holding on to all of these negative emotions. And it's not doing you any good. And honestly, probably the person who's hurt you, they're probably happy you're angry because they probably wanted to fuck with you anyways. They're like, goal attained. I fucked with them. That's a different story. But that is why it's important to forgive. So once you've established that it's important to forgive, there are ways to do it, even when it's difficult to do it. Um, you could start with that Hawaiian thing that I talked about. I forgive you. I'm sorry. Thank you. I love you. And you don't have to feel like you mean it. You just go through the motions until one day you do mean it, but you just go through the motions. And the other thing that I recommend is trying to understand why they did it. And you need to be honest here. The only person you are going to jip if you half-ass this is yourself. Like, don't enter this from a perspective of I'm angry and, you know, why they do it because they're an asshole. No, really, let's be real. Why did they actually do it? Okay, quit fucking around and let's be real. Why did they do this? What was their exact motive? Did they hope that they were going to get some money? Did they hope that they would be around someone that they care for, that they love? What was their actual motive? Right? We're not judging who their character is. We're actually talking about actions and what they hope to attain through their actions. Okay, let's keep all of the adjectives out of it, right? We're not trying to describe them. We're just talking about their actions, why they did the things that they did. And once you begin to understand people's motives in your reality, right? We don't fully know what their motives were because we're not inside their minds. But once you try to begin to walk in their shoes and to understand where they were coming from, it becomes easier to forgive them. It becomes more natural. Um, and that's, if you'll actually notice, pay attention to conversations to people who are angry, they don't want to do that. Because I think deep down they know that the minute they begin to understand someone's true motives, they will forgive, and they don't want to do that. They want to hold on to their anger. I don't know why they want to hold on to their anger. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know. Um, that's interesting. Why do people want to hold on to anger? I have to give that some thought. But anyways, so they don't want to fully understand the other person. They don't want to come up with excuses for them because they want to be angry. And maybe it feels powerful to be angry, but it's a lie. It's just pain. It is just painful to be angry, especially if there's nothing you can do about it. If you feel like you have been treated unfairly and there is not a thing you can do about it, you know what the anger feels like? It feels like you want to scream and nothing comes out, because I've been there where I have been treated so unfairly and there's not a thing I can do about it. And I just want to scream. And it feels like my voice won't come out. And I'm just building up inside of me. And being able to release that, it was so liberating. It was healing for me. It was allowing me to put all of this stuff in the past. And the magical thing that happened as I did that is that I began to see the good that came out of the situation. Again, Romans 8:28, all things work for the good for those who love God. Now, first of all, I fucking insist that all things work for my good. But now, what does that mean? I mean, I will look for any tiny way and every kind of way that something worked out for my good because the Bible says it. I'm demanding it. It's my right. As a child of God, it is my right, and so I'm going to demand it until it happens, by hook or by crook, right? But um, as you are able to heal and to release the anger and to forgive, you could take a step back and see how this situation actually helped you in some way or other. Like, for example, my life was demolished, right? I've told you that. A couple of people hurt me in a way that just everything was turned upside down. I woke up for years thinking my life is a nightmare. Have I not woken up from it yet? You know what happened after that? I realized I was depressed to the point where I didn't want to be alive. And then these things happened to me. They were my fucking wake up call, right? I mean, yes, I want to be alive for my daughter, but the path I was on, depression, not wanting to be alive, is that a path I really wanted to continue? Or did they maybe do me a favor by fucking demolishing that depressing life and forcing me to create a new one? Now, of course, I didn't want to admit that for years, but I was going down a terrible road. I was miserable. I was miserable in my life. And then they came along and destroyed it. And I was angry. You destroyed my life. Destroyed my miserable life. You destroyed my miserable life. Thank you. Years later, I can say that now. Thank you. I was completely torn apart, but I had to recreate myself. I had a rare opportunity to recreate myself exactly as I want to be, exactly as who I am deep down at my core, not as family influenced me or society influenced me, expectations, demands. No, 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 no. This time, I can be exactly who the hell I want to be, and I can create the exact life that I want. They left me at ground zero with nothing. And for the longest time, that's all I could focus on is you demolished everything. But I didn't realize that at ground zero, I could create a new foundation. I could create a new building. They gifted me a new life by destroying my old one. Now, as I am living it, as I am living that demolition phase, of course, I didn't know what was coming up ahead. Of course, I'm not thinking straight. Hell, I was fucking depressed. You think someone who's depressed and barely functioning and barely getting off the couch can think to themselves, well, hey, this is a fantastic opportunity to recreate my life? No. You know that woman was not thinking that. That woman was fucking thinking everything was a mess. Now it's even worse. This is all a fucking disaster. But it was a gift. And I just had to be patient. I just had to keep getting off that couch day in and day out until one day I got off the couch and I thought to myself, I fucking love my life. I don't wake up every day now thinking, is this nightmare over? I wake up thinking, I wonder what new and exciting things are in store for me today. I had to crawl my way to that point. And to be able to release the anger and to wrap my head around the rare gift I was gifted when they demolished my life, you know, they moved from the forgiveness part of my journal to the second part of my journal, which is gratitude. Those are the two things I journal every morning. So a year ago, when I started journaling, They were on my forgiveness list day in, day out. I forgive you. I'm sorry. Thank you. I love you. An internal part of me was rolling my eyes, but I made up my mind I was going to do this. And so I was fucking going through the motions until I don't know when, a few months in, they moved over to the gratitude part of my journal. I list everything that I am grateful for. I not literally everything because that would take, I don't have all the time in the day to do that, but I aim for at least 25 things and I'm feeling positive and happy. I'll go beyond 25, but my goal is at least 25. And they made their way to the gratitude part of my journal because I wouldn't be talking to you today if it wasn't for them. You know where I would be today if it wasn't for them? On my fucking couch, miserable, crying, unappreciative of my daughter, unappreciative of the life that I have been gifted to enjoy by God. And they liberated me from my own misery by destroying all of that for me. I am grateful to them. And that's why I don't want to hurt them. That's why I don't want to talk about who they are, and what exactly they did and all of that, because they did me a favor that I did not have the energy to do for myself, to create a new life for myself where I am happy, where I am passionate, where I'm determined. They gifted that to me. And so, yes, I not only forgive them, I wish them the absolute best. I wish them the same. I wish them to have joyful, passionate days. Because in thinking they were hurting me, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, by choice or by not, they actually gifted me the greatest gift of all, the appreciation for life, the demand for joy, the opportunity to recreate who I am, my identity, my entire life as the person that I am deep down and that I desire to be, liberated from all of the expectations, all of the demands, because I just say, fuck it now. You have a demand on me? If I don't like it, well, fuck you and fuck your demand. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I cuss like a sailor. But that's just the reality of it. Like, I'm not going to deal with that bullshit anymore. Um, I am who I am. There's always room for opportunity, but I will improve the minute I decide to do it. Not a moment sooner, not a moment later. But anyways, that is today's topic, forgiveness. I hope that you have enjoyed it and come back again. See you next time.